Today we're going to discuss why breakup pain can last far longer than we expect. And even when you know the relationship logically is over, still you can't get over that pain and you can't get over the mental spiral that happens. Now, this is not just a move on talk, maybe like you have with a casual friend. I want to give you some practical tips here. I want to give you a framework that you can use to actually work through the breakup and create that shift in the cognitive sense and the emotional sense to change those patterns and ultimately to change your life so that you're much happier. Now, this is whether you've been through a divorce, whether you've been through a breakup, and especially if you've been through breakup after breakup after breakup. I'm going to share my story towards the end. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do about that, because that can be a bit more serious. I'm also going to share with you 2 client examples, so I'm going to keep them anonymous. So let's call them Neil and Priya. So by the end of this session, you'll have a framework that you can use, and I'm also going to give you 2 free gifts. So stay till the end. So let's dive in today. We're going to look at why you're still stuck. Why even after a breakup, we just keep being stuck in that loop. Then we're going to look at what are some of the common symptoms that you'll see. And then we'll look at a 3-step recovery protocol. Now, I just want to clarify here, I'm going to be talking about emotional patterns, nervous system responses, and behavior loops. But this isn't medical advice, shall we say, or mental health treatment. So if you are in a crisis or you're feeling unsafe, then it's really important that you seek help immediately. Seek professional help. So this is not to replace professional help. This session is more about giving you education and also practical self-coaching tools. Okay, so with that being said, let's dive in. Now, one important reframe about your situation. You might feel that, why am I being so illogical? Why am I going so crazy? And I'll say this right from the start. When it's something to do with your nervous system or something often to do with emotions, you see, your nervous system, your brain, is not necessarily logical. It tells you, or there are certain chemical reactions that happen that are not logical, that are illogical. So when you look at it, it's like, yes, this breakup was the right thing. Why am I still attached? There are other things at play. Sometimes you're waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes you're replaying conversations over and over. Sometimes, this is one of the worst ones, you're stalking that person, your ex, on social media, seeing what they're up to, seeing who they're with. And then often oscillating between sadness and rage. So these things that happen, this is not a weakness problem as such. This is a nervous system problem. And there are 3 systems at play. So the first is the attachment system. So this is the part of you that forms bonds and connections with other people, ultimately forming that need for, serving the need for love. So when you lose an attachment, the brain reacts like it's going through some kind of withdrawal symptom. Like, imagine if somebody is addicted to whatever it is, smoking or drinking or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden we take that away. Even if it's just watching your favorite TV series or something like that, and you suddenly take that away, you get withdrawal symptoms. It wants to go back to that situation. You crave contact, even when you know that contact will hurt you. So this is not logical. Then there is the threat system, which activates the fight, flight, or freeze response. Most people probably would have heard of those things, but just in case you haven't, I did meet somebody the other day, and when I asked them, do you know about these things? He said no. So just to be clear, when the nervous system goes through a feeling of a perceived threat, whether it really is a threat, like I don't know, you're in the zoo and the lion somehow escapes the zoo. So whether it's a perceived threat, whether it's a real threat or whether it's a perceived threat. So, for example, you've got an exam coming up and you haven't revised hard enough in your perception. So the body, the nervous system, then puts you into either you're going to be fighting, either you're going to be running away, or it puts you into freeze mode. So this is often what can happen even when you've been through a breakup, because the system now starts to scan for danger. Because after a breakup, it feels there is an inward threat. What did I miss? Why did this happen? What does this mean? Why did he or she break up with me? What if I never find someone like them again? And this is one of the most common ones. That feeling of never being able to find somebody exactly like them, and that kind of loss that you're never going to gain that again, that then sets up the nervous system to scan for danger and to constantly scan for threats, puts into like hypervigilance mode. And then the third system, which is there, is the meaning system. So this breakup or this divorce, this loss of the relationship, what does it mean to you? What does it mean about you? And what does it mean about your life? Maybe you'll feel there isn't a sense of fairness, a sense of justice, morality, spirituality. What's the lesson here? And when there isn't a proper meaning given to this loss, then this can make us spiral into these endless loops. And sometimes these loops can last for years or even your whole lifetime. So we have to address this. So now if you look at these three systems together, the attachment system, the threat system, and the meaning system, if you look at this diagram now, you'll see what's right there in the middle is that breakup pain. And it's activating all three of those. Often it's activating all three of those simultaneously. So this is not a logical problem. This is a problem of the heart. This is a problem of the nervous system, feeling like it's under attack. So when you're asking yourself, oh my God, like, why can't I let this go? Well, let's reframe this and understand, okay, this is not just me thinking about letting it go. We have to actually address these systems. So let's look at some of these symptoms. So I've kind of categorized them into three categories. So mental loops, there are emotional patterns, and there are also physical symptoms. Now in psychology, we use the term somatic symptoms to mean specifically referring to what's going on in the body physically. And just to clarify, sometimes what happens is, although the issue is in one sense an emotional or in the mind issue, shall we say, whether it's emotional, whether it's a mental pattern, that issue can manifest itself physically. And you'll know this, the most, shall we say, raw example of this, sorry to use this example, but one of the most raw examples of this is like, you can, when somebody is thinking, for example, sexual fantasies, there are physical changes that happen to the body. So you can see that the mind has the power to affect the body. So similarly, when somebody's going through stress, it can affect the body. Somebody might have a rash, somebody might have, red cheeks or something like that. So let's look at all three of these: the mental loops, the emotional patterns, and the physical symptoms. So the first mental one I wanted to discuss is rumination loops. So if you have ever been through a breakup, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Replaying conversations that have happened over and over, and often thinking that I wish I'd just said this. Oh, I wish I'd just done this. Maybe then we would still be together. Maybe then, things would have turned out differently. And when we think over these these mental images or scenarios over and over again, it actually keeps us more and more stuck, almost like in terms of our attachment towards that person. We can't let them go. What if that? What if this? Then there's what we call cognitive dissonance. So this means where there is almost like a polarization of the mind. There are two conflicting thoughts simultaneously. So for example, you might know that this relationship wasn't good, or it did have to end. But then at the same time, you still want that person. You still have that longing. You're still thinking about that person. So it's almost like, even on an emotional level, you can say there's love there, or there's attachment there, but then there's also anger or even hate there simultaneously. Both, it's almost like the polarized thoughts or emotions can be there simultaneously. And it's like a tennis match, back and forth. One time you're thinking about how amazing the relationship was, and you wish you were with them. And then the next moment you're like, oh my God, but this happened and that happened, and I hate him or I hate her, like this. So it's like it's almost like a mental tennis match going on. It's horrible. Then another mental symptom is lack of concentration. So now, because there is this almost like constant whirring of the mind, playing back and overthinking and overanalyzing over and over again, there's lack of concentration. Now when you're at work, little tasks seem difficult. And this can affect your work. It can affect your interactions with your work colleagues. It can slow down your productivity. It can affect your current relationships. And of course, there is a lot of wasting of time when there is lack of concentration. What should have taken you half an hour now takes 3 hours. And then one of the last symptoms I'm going to talk about is decision paralysis. So this is especially regards dating. You're stuck between kind of wanting to move forward and maybe going on dating apps, and then feeling, oh, you know what, actually I'm not ready. Maybe you find somebody and it's kind of like, it's not that person. And therefore, it's like, should I move forward? Should I not? And then you don't. And sometimes you might even be blocking or unblocking your ex. And that's often a symptom that I find. So now I'm going to ask you, please say in the chat, what else would you say that happens in terms of mental symptoms? What else are there? What else is either that you've been through or that you've seen other people go through? Please share in the chat. It might help somebody else. Okay, and as you're writing, I will continue. So now let's look at emotional symptoms. There is a feeling of persistent attachment to the ex. You're missing them. You idealize the relationship. And it might even be that you crave that closure. But because you haven't had proper closure, it's like that door is still wide open and you're still feeling that strong attachment to them. Can't let them go. Then there might be anger and resentment. And this is often the case, as I was saying, this kind of like these polarized feelings where although you do have that attachment for them, there is a lot of anger. In fact, in one sense, it's because you have attachment for them that there can be anger. Have you noticed the people that often you get the most angry with are your loved ones, or the people that you used to love? So anger and resentment often happens when the person feels there's been some kind of betrayal or some kind of abandonment, very almost like sudden or unexplained reason for the ending of that relationship. Maybe there's some divorce proceedings that happen and the way in which it's being handled, it feels very unfair. So the anger often comes out as a mask for the feeling of being powerless. That feeling of being powerless is horrible, feeling of being helpless. So in order to almost like counteract that feeling, anger is a very powerful emotion. So that comes forward to then mask that feeling of being helpless in that situation. Like you're not getting the answer, you're not getting what you want in the divorce or whatever it is. And it's like, what can you do? Therefore, anger comes out. Oops. And then we have identity loss. So this especially happens after a marriage, or after a marriage ends, goes through a divorce, because then the person can often feel, who am I without this relationship? Who am I now separated from that family dynamic that I used to have? And then this can often lead to that feeling then, that fear of being alone. That, what if I don't find someone else? What if I don't find someone else as good as that person? What if I don't ever have a relationship as good as what I had with him or her? And then it's like, because you've almost had a standard which is this high, now when nobody else meets that standard, it's like, well, I'd rather just be alone then. And now the person is stuck. So for this one again, I'm going to ask you to please discuss in the chat. What else would you say that people do, or what people go through in terms of emotional symptoms? Again, please share in the chat because it might help somebody else, might resonate with somebody else. Okay, and so now let's look at physical symptoms. Now, a very typical one that many of my clients actually talk about is this waking up at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning. Like the body almost shakes the person awake. And this is often a sign that there is some deep rooted stress, some anxiety going on, and therefore the body wakes us up with, like, the adrenaline is still kicking into the body. And the person often wakes up with feelings of sadness, and which can very quickly turn to anger. Just a few thoughts later, it's like you kind of fall down the rabbit hole of sadness, and before you know it, like, anger comes up. Again, it's masking that feeling of helplessness. And then sometimes you can't sleep. How do you then get back to sleep? You play something, you try something, and just the mind just ruminating, and of course it affects your working day. And as I was saying earlier, sometimes these emotions, which are very strong emotions, especially if that attachment was very strong for that person, then what you'll find is there is deep, some of these strong emotions, intense emotions, will manifest as physical pain in the body. And people often talk about neck pain, or pain in their shoulders, and even in their arms. This is often the emotion of anger. And there's a coach, she's passed away now, but a wonderful lady by the name of Louise Hay, and she talks about how emotions can often manifest as physical symptoms. And one of the symptoms, which I was quite surprised about, one of the symptoms is when somebody has a lot of anger and it's not being expressed. Sometimes they have a sore throat as a result. So the sore throat is not because of, shall we say, the cold country, going out in the cold or something like that. It's actually because there is the emotion of anger which is still stored in the throat area. So once you release the anger, you'll notice that actually the sore throat goes away. Another thing often that happens is loss of appetite. Or it could be the opposite of that, is sometimes people comfort eat or stress eat like this. So in other words, the eating is either extreme this way or extreme that way. And this is due to the emotions. And of course, a key symptom, physical symptom, is lack of energy, because it's like your body is just weighed down with all these emotions. So it's harder to get up. It's hard to get to sleep, and then once you do get to sleep, it's hard to wake up. And some people even use sleep as a way of kind of escaping the pain of what they're going through. And speaking of that, oh, sorry. So just before I move on, so again, I'm going to ask you to say in the chat, what else would you say are physical symptoms that you have been through yourself, or you've seen other people go through once they've been through a breakup or some kind of divorce? Please share in the chat. So as a result of some of these, shall we say, either mental, physical, emotional or physical symptoms, then a person may often turn to certain coping behaviors. So for example, taking to alcohol or smoking. So one of my clients, he went through a breakup, and all he was talking is, I just feel like I'm so angry. The only way I can deal with this is just by drinking and smoking. Why? Because that helps to drown those emotions. Then you have, for example, non-stop scrolling. This is obviously a very easy one to get lost into. So you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. What do? You can't deal with these emotions. You get on your phone, scroll, and just non-stop scrolling. Before you know it, it's like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, like 4 or 5 hours have gone by, and it's just kind of grinding away. And we're just trying to. Those emotions are coming up, and we're just trying to escape from those emotions. It's a very difficult situation. Another coping behavior might be somebody goes through a rebound. So the idea is that they're looking for attention. They're looking for somebody else to fill that hole in the heart. They're looking for a substitute for that person. And sometimes they even might maybe have a one-night stand or turn to internet pornography or something like that, as a way of trying to cope with not having that person now in their heart, not having that love that they felt before, and they look for substitutes for this love. And I always make this point that it's like, if you're really thirsty and instead of drinking water, you eat cake, for example. So now, okay, you're extremely thirsty. Okay, you're eating cake, and it may be very sweet, and it may actually be very nice and tasty, but that's not going to fulfill your need of the thirst. And so you still feel dissatisfied. You still don't feel fulfilled. You still don't feel whole, shall we say. And just one more I'm going to give is somebody might run away, escape. Let me just go on holiday. That's the best way to forget them. So go away, nice beach, have some thrill rides, water parks or something like that. Have a great time, and then come back. And what happens? After a little while, after the fun of whatever the holiday gave kind of wanes away, we're back to what's there at the root. And the other extreme is, rather than going away on holiday, is to then isolate themselves. So these, you can see, are some of the experiences that somebody will go through as a breakup. And let me just ask in the chat, can you relate to any of these symptoms? Have you been through any of these? Have you seen other people go through these symptoms? And you see, this is kind of like the natural rabbit hole almost of what people go through as a breakup, and there's certain reasons why. They'll go through mental loops, there's emotional patterns, physical symptoms are there, and often then leading to these coping behaviors. So I wanted to give you two client cases. So this is Priya. I've changed the names to keep them anonymous. So this is Priya. She was totally in love with her partner. And one of the reasons why was her partner brought out the best in her. And she felt she also brought out the best in him. Now, his family situation made it very difficult for her to kind of fully fully commit to that relationship. And she got to the point where it was like, I don't want to string him along until he's kind of properly sorted himself out. And so therefore she chose to kind of break off from the relationship. However, in that process, it was so painful for her, even though it was her the one who did, even though she was the one who did it. It was such a painful process for her because she was very attached to him, and they actually had an amazing bond together. And of course, you can imagine now that she's broken off with him and she has attempted to move on, finding somebody who then has that same bond and that brings out that same spark, shall we say, is very difficult. And so there are so many things that she had, so many difficulties, I'll explain in shortly, so many difficulties that she goes through. And often that pain of the breakup is amplified during the time of the month, because whatever emotions are there then comes out even stronger, which makes it even more painful to deal with. So let's see what happened to her and how we're dealing with her. So one of the things keeping Priya stuck is this comparison, and kind of stalking her ex and seeing how he's now happy in his relationship, in a different relationship now, and moving forward in his life. And it's when seeing him now moving forward, it's like, why couldn't he do that for me? And it's like, what was wrong with me? Was I replaceable? Like, he's just getting on with his life and I'm left behind, and look at the situation I'm left with. And so now these mental patterns keep going on and on and on like this. So let me just put the warning here. It is very dangerous in one sense for those mental patterns, is to stalk your ex, is to check what is your ex doing, how are they getting on, because naturally the mind will develop those comparisons. And one of the things, obviously seeing now that he's in a relationship seemingly happy, and he is doing those things that he so-called didn't do for her at that time, it makes her feel, well, is she better than me? He chose her over me. And rather than feeling I've the grief, shall we say, that I lost someone else, it's more like the grief or the identity injury that I lost myself, because he's chosen somebody else over. So it's almost like she feels devalued. She's lost her value in the process, because why has he gone with her and not me? And so what does that mean about me? And so this is very dangerous. So I'm kind of stalking other people, because those kind of beliefs, especially regards our self-worth, can keep us again stuck in this place of, you're never going to be worthy of finding somebody else. And then as she's dating, what she's finding is no one else makes her feel the way that he did. Again, because obviously everybody is individual, she is never going to find somebody exactly like him. It's the nature of the world, isn't it? Everybody individual means there is no other person like him. So if she's never going to find somebody like him, and if her expectation or standard is of him, then again, that's going to keep her stuck. And especially her nervous system is going to be activated, the threat response is going to be activated, because in one sense the implication here is the only solution is finding a replacement who is exactly like him, which of course can never happen. So as part of her recovery program, what we've done is we've started to help her to reduce that emotional pain, start to reduce the emotional intensity, and for a start is to get her to stop stalking him. I say in inverted commas. She doesn't look that often, but she does look to check what's going on in his life. Is to stop doing that, because that's simply adding to the emotional pain that she's going through and causing all these other aspects. So by reducing first of all, reducing the attachment to him, therefore it will stop the curiosity of what is he up to, and therefore now we can start to reduce the emotional pain and actually help her to, shall we say, get closure. Now, one of the things also here is that she never got full closure. So again, that's one of the things that we have to do is get that closure. I'm going to show you a self-coaching process that you can do shortly. Then I have another case of a person called Neil, just to make it a male. So he was in a relationship for many years. Sorry, as in I've changed his name to keep him anonymous, but I wanted to give you a male perspective as well. So he was in a relationship for many years, but the girl would never commit to him in the relationship, and then in the end she ended the relationship for reasons that he felt were not valid. And so because he couldn't understand, why is she rejecting me? And again, it's put his mind, it's put his shall we say, thought process into overdrive, over analyzing, because it's like, what did I do? Why isn't she I committed to this relationship, I gave her so much love, why didn't she reciprocate? And so as a result, he was actually feeling a lot of physical pain, and it especially happened in the chest area. And often you'll find that anger, resentment, and so many very strong emotions often manifest physically in this area here, very heavy. And he even explained that some days it felt like it was almost like emotional anguish, or it felt like, he said it almost felt like death. I was like, wow, we need to. So I did a one-to-one session with him, like, none of these self-coaching techniques were going to work with such intense pain. So we had to do something at the emotional level to really to help, and happy to say it worked. So what he was going through is he was seeking the truth, and he felt betrayed in that relationship because she wasn't telling the true reasons why the breakup. And of course, the nature of the mind is it cannot have a vacuum in the story. It cannot have a gap in the story. It needs to fill the gap with something. So of course, naturally the mind, for some reason, I don't fully understand this, but the mind always seems to go for the worst case scenario, whether it's to protect us, whether it's just its default setting. So obviously that just makes him feel more and more, shall we say, crappy about himself. What's wrong with me? Then another thought that kept coming up was this feeling of having to restart the relationship. How much time, effort, energy had he put into making this relationship work? And now he's going to have to start again. So at the age of 36, it's like, oh my God, I have to start again. It feels so helpless. It feels like such a waste of time. But again, not getting the answers to the questions that he needed. He can't get the truth, and his mind is just constantly after, what is the real story? What is the truth? Why did she break up? And so, of course, all of this leads to more and more anger. And I just wanted to clarify here that anger is not actually a bad thing, in the sense of it's not something that we have to fight against. So anger is a message from the subconscious, shall we say, and it's indicating that a boundary has been crossed. And it could also indicate that you feel helpless in that situation. So it's almost like a tool. So see, it's almost like trying to give you a message. So what is the message? What is the thing, that the lesson that is going to help you from this anger? So when anger comes up, actually take out after the, shall we say, the initial we need to extract what the message is that it's trying to give us. So in his case, that anger was coming up especially because of the lost time. So one of the things that I helped this particular client to do was fill in the gaps. Get the explanations and the understandings of why this relationship ended. Often what happens is when we're drowning in our own sorrows, it can be quite difficult to see, shall we say, from a third person perspective. I often use this example, or use this point, that imagine if you were a fly on the wall. If you were a fly on the wall, what would you, and you were looking at this situation, what perspective would you have? Because a fly on the wall is, in one sense, able to come out of those emotions and then look at this situation from a, shall we say, a neutral or an external perspective. And that can often help to see, okay, what is this actual story going on here? But when we're lost in those emotions, it's very hard to see from the other person's perspective and actually what they're going through. There are always two sides to the story. But like I said, the problem is when we make up our own story in our head, and it's like the worst case, and it makes us feel so bad about ourselves, that just drives more and more negative emotions. So after doing a hypnotherapy session with this client, he sent me this. So he was updating me day to day. And day 6, he actually sent this. I haven't shed a single tear in the last 2 days. The desire to get answers is now lost. So we addressed it in the session. The feeling of I'm going to enjoy my life has come. I hope it sustains. I feel like talking to other girls and finding the right partner for myself. In other words, he's starting to move on. I no longer feel that I'm cheating on her by being with other girls. So I was able to start moving on. So it took some time, but just like the last time, hypnotherapy worked wonderfully. Hypnotherapy, by the way, is guided meditation. I can feel that the attachment has now gone for good. You are a magician. So just briefly, actually before I say my story. So one of the things, the process that I'm going to suggest to use is we can go through, this is a self-coaching process. So this is without the need for somebody else. So I wanted to give you that option first, shall we say. So you can download this if you sign up to the website. The link will be, I'll give you the QR code to scan in a moment, and the links should be below in the description. So if you sign up, you'll get access to this document in the library. It's all free, and you can go through this particular process. So what we do is, the first step is, you can see here, tick the box that matches what's driving your pain this week. So in different weeks, you may go through different, shall we say, focuses. A pain will come up because of a particular reason, then another week it might be a slightly different reason. So what we do is we first of all identify what is the possible reason for the pain this week. What are you going through right now? Let's say it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Get this out and go through it. What is it? Oh, I didn't get closure. Oh, it's a dignity wound. It's like how they treated me. The meaning that you've given it, whatever. Go through it and then write out what is the primary driver. And then what you do is you write a different explanation. You write a plausible explanation based on the patterns and the facts. So again, this is about once you've kind of written it out, this is what I'm going through. That allows, it's almost like acknowledging that emotion. And so once you've acknowledged the emotion, it allows you to have a more, shall we say, logical perspective. And so therefore, that's when you can then write your logical perspective. But it's really important that first of all, you acknowledge the emotion. That's the secret, shall we say. And then, so there's some questions here that you can write. My best evidence-based explanation is, and you can write through there, one boundary I'm no longer available for. So this is especially for the anger, to allow you to understand, you know what, I'm never going to let this happen again to me. So if somebody isn't committing or showing commitment, then I'm not going to allow myself to get sucked into that relationship. One action I will take in the next 24 hours is, and you can write that. And then you can use this another tool, which is the 90-second nervous system reset. So remember, your nervous system, when it goes through that kind of threat, alert state, we need to calm it down first, because we are not going to be thinking logically in such a state. So often if you use a simple tool like breathing or splashing your face with cold water, or even grounding yourself with this technique, and I like this one. So what you do is you stop and you say, what are 5 things that I see right now? So imagine you're ruminating, and I know all these thoughts are coming up about the relationship. Maybe you're replaying a conversation. It's like, okay, stop. Okay, what are 5 things that I see right now in the room? Okay, I see this, I see this, I see this. Okay, what are 4 things that I feel right now? Okay, I can feel the bed. I can feel the, I don't know, some pillow is there. I can feel it slightly cold in the room. Not feel as in emotions, feel as in physical. What can I hear? What sounds can I hear? 3 o'clock in the night. Maybe you can hear some cars passing by. I don't know, maybe you can hear somebody snoring. What do I smell? And then what do I taste? Like that. And it's like, oh, I need to brush my teeth. got what do you call, bad taste in my mouth at night time. Or whatever it is. So try one of those 3 techniques, or all 3, and then see which one actually helps you to, in that moment, helps you to actually stop and reset. And you can also identify what are some of the warning signs when you can feel, oh, this is coming up. So as you start to become more self-aware, you'll realize that, okay, when this particular trigger, or when, I don't know, you're going out and you see a couple together and having, you can start to feel, oh, okay, this is what I could have had, or this is what I used to have, and you can start to spot, okay, this is a warning sign, right? I need to squash it there. Stop myself falling down the rabbit hole. And then finally, you can use this technique where what you do is, if a thought does come up, or a thought or an urge, you write it out and then you park it. And you can say, okay, I'm going to park this for a certain amount of time. Because when you don't give, you acknowledge it, but when you don't give it, shall we say, direct attention straight away, then that allows it to, the intensity of it to begin to diminish, to begin to wane gradually, and get less and less. Now, when you do come to think about it, it's a lot less intense compared to that very first time when it first came up, feeling those emotions, even if it's sadness or anger. So you can write them out here throughout the day as these thoughts come. Maybe you park it for, or you can even say parked till, and you can even say, okay, 7 o'clock in the evening, that's the time where I ruminate, where I think about these things. I'll do it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that's it. Put it aside after that and carry on. We have to give the emotions some attention, but not overdo it. And that's the point. And when you do it at a set time, when you force yourself to do it at a set time, then that allows you to now more, shall we say, control or set a boundary for those thoughts and emotions, like that. So like I said, you can get this document. You can download this document. I'll just show you the here. So you can scan this QR code, or the description will be the links will be below. And so what I'll say is, the final thing I'll say is, what happened to you is not your fault, but the healing is your responsibility. So we've got to get to the root. That's your responsibility. Nobody else is actually going to do that. And go through some kind of healing process. So just briefly, I went through the reason why I've decided to become so passionate about resolving these issues for others is because I went through it myself. And I remember getting that phone call when I was about 23 years old. I think I was 23. I was 24 years old. I remember having this phone call in my mum and dad's bedroom. We had a home phone and it was ringing. And I remember picking it up, and it was one of my friends. And she said to me, "I've got some news for you." And I was thinking, news? I wonder what she's talking about. And then she told me, "You know your ex? She's getting married." And I remember going down, falling to the floor practically. I didn't show any emotion on the phone, but I know, like, my whole body just collapsed. And it was that unbelievable pain in the heart that I went through. And then I kind of gathered myself and continued the conversation, but I wasn't really paying attention or listening to anything she was saying. And then after putting the phone down, I remember just sitting there for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and just being like, what? It's like she's left me for good. Although we had mutually agreed, so with my first relationship, we had mutually agreed to separate. But still, my heart hadn't let go. And when I heard that news, it literally was like a dagger to the heart. And as a result, I went through so many coping behaviors. And one of them was going through one bad relationship to another, where eventually I had to put my hand up and say that of all these bad relationships, who is the common denominator? Who is the common factor? It's not the girls. It's not the other people. It's me. And it's only when, shall we say, I admitted that I need to do something about that, as in there's something I have to sort out within me. There's something going on internally within me that needs healing. Did I then eventually get married? And at least at the time of this recording, I've been married nearly 18 years. And the process that I went through was actually healing myself, because what I realized through therapy, and especially through going through hypnotherapy, what I realized is, because of a lot of childhood trauma, I actually had a very negative relationship with myself. And after going through all those bad relationships, when I healed the relationship with myself, especially through trauma therapy, then I remember standing there on my wedding day, and my beautiful wife wife to be, coming into the arena where we were going to get married. And I was like, how did I get here? From that phone call where it's like my ex is getting married to somebody else, and me just spiraling after that, to that now here I am in a loving relationship with a person who is like, wow, in my eyes. How did I go from that to this? And when I looked back, I realized it's because I healed the relationship with myself. So I always make this point that your relationship with others is a reflection of the relationship with yourself. So especially if you are, first of all, if you're attracting the wrong person in the first place, and secondly, if you keep going through these repeated cycles, then what's the common denominator? What is it that's going on? Why are we attracting that person? There's something within us that is attracting the wrong kind of person. So having had that realization, now I teach this to other people, and I've helped so many other people, as Neil and what's the name I gave her, Priya, anonymous names. So if you want to find out more and get that worksheet that I spoke about today, if you sign up at www.nijdey.com/events, you can get that worksheet. You'll get access to the library, and then you can download that worksheet. And also, I offer one-to-one coaching. So again, if the pain is really bad, or you suspect, yes, there is some internal healing that needs to be done. Now, even if you're married, even if you already have a family, you have a wife, you have your husband, you have even kids, if you feel that there's that loneliness, you feel that you're not fully engaging in those relationships, then often that the root cause is that we need to work on the relationship with ourselves. So again, you can get in touch, and what I'm offering is to almost like to say thank you for kind of going on this journey with me, and taking the time out to listen to this. So I'm offering a discount of £70 for the one-to-one coaching. So if you add discount 70 to the discount code in the option, you'll get £70 off the price of one-to-one coaching. Again, the details will be there. Scan me, or the details will be there in the description below. So on that note, I will stop there and ask if there are any questions. Please ask away in the chat. Okay, for now there are no questions. So please feel free, even if you are watching the recording of this, please feel free to write any questions in the chat, and I will get back to you. I will get back to you and do my best to answer those questions for you. Otherwise, take care. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and please share this with other people that you feel that would benefit. And yes, take care. We'll see you in the next one.